Dear colleagues, thank you very much. I would like to introduce myself. First of all, my name is Helena Kardanova. I'm director of the Psychomedics and Educational Reform Institute at the Higher School of Economics, and it is my great pleasure to be moderating this session. I want to thank the conference organizers for dedicating a whole day of this very prestigious conference to a very important topic of education assessment. In the morning sessions today, we discussed what and how we should assess. And during the day today, we are discussing the tools of assessment, the use of assessment data and recommendations, and how the assessment data could be incorporated and built into policy making and how it could inform policy making. And it's very important that we have these parallel sessions in addition to the keynote session in the morning, and I'm sure that this specific thematic session is going to be very important. We have 4 presentations, 15 minutes each and 5 minutes for Q&A session for the presenters to respond to the questions from the audience. My request to the audience is to write your questions in the chat box, and the presenters would answer them afterwards. You can write the questions in English or in Russian, because these two are the working languages of our conferences. By the way, we are going to have presentations in both languages. So I want to draw your attention once again to the globe button that you can use to choose the language that you feel more comfortable in. So when the presenters' 15 minutes are up, I'm going to let the presenters know, please show understanding, because we have 4 speakers. We need time to hear all the speakers, to discuss all the presentations, to answer the questions. So we need to be really very strict. So we are starting our agenda now, and the first presenter is going to be Mantel Zelvis from Vilnius University, with a presentation called "The Predictive Value of Centralized Student Assessment: The Case of Lithuania." Please, Rimantas, the floor is yours. Rimantas, don't forget to unmute yourself, please.
So, hello again. My presentation will be in English, and I will
Я извиняюсь, что я перебиваю вас. Риматас, вам надо выбрать английский канал, чтобы переводчики могли вас переводить.
So, Rimatas, you need to choose the English channel. Otherwise, we will hear both you and the interpreters on the same channel. Please use the globe icon at the bottom of the Zoom window, and please choose English.
Okay. I think now it's okay, right?
I think you work well, yes.
Yes. Okay, thanks. So let's share the screen again. The title of my presentation is "The Predictive Value of the Centralized Student Assessment, the Case of Lithuania." As you can see, we're 2 presenters. Audronė Jakaitienė is my co-presenter. She's a professor of mathematics, so she has done all the calculations of our research. And I will be the main presenter because my main field is education. I will start saying that after the fall of the Berlin Wall, almost all former socialist countries introduced systems of centralized student assessment as an important component of modernization reforms in education. The generally declared goals were to seek fairness and objectivity of educational evaluation, to monitor student progress, to use the results of school leave examinations for admission to higher educational institutions, to fight corruption, etc. Judging from time perspective, we have to admit that not all these aims were achieved. Apparently, the level of corruption decreased, but cheating did not disappear and acquired new forms. For example, selling examination tasks at the internet market. The rapid growth of private tutoring became a serious challenge in terms of providing equal opportunities for students from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Doubts are also voiced whether standardized forms of assessment adequately reflect the students' academic progress. However, often the decision makers tend to treat examination results as an ultimate proof of school effectiveness. Lithuania. Lithuania was one of the first post-socialist countries to introduce a system of centralized secondary school leaving examinations. Well, we usually call it Matura examinations. Matura examinations were run for the first time in 1999 and eventually replaced the entrance examination to higher education institutions. Their results are also used for the purpose of student selection and allocation of state grants. Next stage of the examination reform was the introduction of 10th grade tests in the year 2000. And in 2011, the 10th grade tests of Lithuanian language and mathematics were made compulsory. So the aim of our study was to explore the predictive value of student assessment. To what extent 10th grade test results can predict the results of Matura examinations, and to what extent Matura examinations can show chances of students to enter higher educational institutions. In our study, we used individual level data for the entire Lithuanian secondary school student population who have taken Matura examinations during the period of 2014-2018. Our research is limited to general secondary schools and does not include the examination data of vocational schools. We analyzed the results of mathematics Matura examination from the period of 2014-2018, the achievements of the 10th grade test from the period of 2012-2016, and merged databases of both assessments. Therefore, for each student, we obtained two measurements of achievement in time, 10th grade and 12th grade. So in fact, we have a database where can we see the progress of each Lithuanian student who has taken Matura examinations. Of course, it's a large database and there are different ways of using it. So we calculated the results of these 5 cycles. And as we can see, the upper graph is for 10th grade test. The lower graph is for Matura examinations. Black color is median. Blue color is mean. And as we can see, our system is complicated in a sense that Matura examinations are assessed in 100 grade scale and 10th grade test in 10th grade scale. So as we can see, the results in each year were different, which leads to the conclusion that examination tasks each year are of different level of difficulty. Otherwise, we can't explain this crocodile teeth that you can see in our graphs. We also calculated Z-score analysis. Z-score we used in order to make all these two systems of measurement comparable. And Z-score analysis show that we do not observe linear correlation between 10th grade test and matura exam. Lower scores of 10th grade test have stronger predictive value than the higher ones. In case someone's 10th grade test Z-score is positive, it has no predictive value for the outcome of matura examination. And I show you the graph of the fifth cycle only because the graphs in all 5 cycles are very similar. Additionally, we present data about the continuation of studies after graduating from secondary school. We observe that even with lower than average secondary school achievements, students can further proceed with their studies at universities and colleges. This means that irrespective of the results in mathematics, one still has chances to continue studies in tertiary education. We can also compare the changes in Z-scores of the matura examinations with the 10th grade test in mathematics. If a student's matura Z-score was positive, above average, while the 10th grade score was negative, below average, we treat it as an improvement and call it upgrade. If the opposite was true, which meant that achievement deteriorated with respect to the country average, we called it downgrade. If the value of Z-score did not change, we classified it as a category of no change. We distinguish between positive no change and negative no change. What are the results? We observed that the proportion of students whose achievement in matura examinations was higher than in grade 10, upgrade, is small but growing. The proportion of students whose performance has deteriorated, downgrade, is higher compared to the improved category, but shows a declining trend. Unfortunately, about half of the student scores were and are still below the national average. So as we can see, if we speak in very general terms, there are students who show worse results during the matura examinations when compared with the 10th grade test. And there is a smaller proportions of students who show better results. What are the main conclusions? Longitudinal analysis revealed that there is no linear correlation between the assessment of the 10th grade test and matura examinations. Results of the 10th grade test apparently do not have a predictive value in relation to matura examinations. Results also indicate that examination tasks in mathematics each year have a different level of difficulty as they are bought on a tender basis from different providers. This research leads to a conclusion that the current system of centralized assessment cannot be considered as a valid instrument of monitoring the long-term students' progress in secondary education. And I can just add that in order to make it a valid instrument of monitoring, of course, we should reform the current system in order to make these two different models compatible. But as far as I know, the Ministry of Education has no plans of that kind for the nearest future. Thank you.
Римантас, большое спасибо. Вы...
Thank you very much, Rimantas. You were perfect in fitting into your time, and you even left us some extra time. So we cannot see any questions in the chat, but you can ask the questions now. But as you are thinking, I will use this chance to ask you a question, Rimantas, because I take great interest in your survey. So my question is, this 19th or 10th grade tests, are these as well centralized? Are these
Yes.
state-run exam?
Yes, exactly. 10th grade test is also a centralized assessment. And the results of these tests are also marked by the examination center.
А почему, с чем связано то, что...
Then my question is, why does it happen so that there are different providers that actually compile the tests for the exams? Because as far as I understand, there are annual tenders, right, for these exam compilations. Is it so?
Yes, exactly. So this is one of the consequences of introducing new public management in education. Tenders, competition, each year a new tender, each year providers give their suggestions. And frankly speaking, I don't think that always the best option is chosen, because the factor of cost usually in tenders is one of the most important factors. So my personal opinion is that we should stop this practice and choose one provider of examination tasks, but then we have collision with other laws which in public sector require apply this principle of tenders.
Спасибо большое. Сейчас я...
Thank you very much, Ramintas. I'm going to read some questions from the chat out loud now. But before I do so, I want to say that still it's good that you have several potential providers in Lithuania who have the competent staff capable of developing and generating the examination tasks. And you have some, and they even compete between themselves during the tenders, because trust me, not every country would boast of having several companies or several organizations like that. But now I would like to read out loud the questions that are here in the chat, both in the Russian and in the English languages. We have 3 questions. I will read the questions one by one.
With this, is it? What is average and what is another national assessment?
Sorry, could you repeat it once more? Could you repeat that question, please?
Below the national average, can we please...
Okay.
What is average?
Okay, I understood. So matura examinations are evaluated in 100-point scale. So according to the concept of examinations, 50 is the average. And people who create examination tasks, they assume that 50 is the result that the average standard student should get. As you can see from our graphs, during these 5 years, there was not a single year when the average score was 50. That's why we say that it's below average. So maybe it's more correct to say below the expected average.
Гюнель, понятен ответ, да?
Да.
Gunel, do you understand the answer?
It's really better when we compare and know exact numbers. Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Мгм. Спасибо большое, коллеги. У нас еще несколько минут. И вот очень интересный
Thank you
вопрос.
very much, colleagues. We have several minutes still left, and there is one interesting question from Marina Glushkova. Are there differences in the technical assignment for developing, in the TOR actually, terms of reference for developing assessment tools for grades 10 and grade 12? And how do you ensure the continuity for the developers of the tests?
Okay, so really, terms of reference for both types of assessment are slightly different, and the aim are slightly different, because the Matura examination is more oriented towards further studies. In fact, it was created as a tool of selection to higher educational institutions. The 10th grade test, its main aim was to assess the previous achievements, because the 10th grade is the end of compulsory education. So the missions are slightly different. That's why the methodologies are different. And I think this is the reason why we received the results that I was presenting to you. But I think that if we want to treat it as a tool of monitoring education, then these two systems should be made compatible. At the moment, they are not. And politicians tend to do this mistake, saying that our results have deteriorated this year because 10th grade tests showed better results and Matura results showed worse results. And they didn't understand that it's different methodology. That's why I think this is important, and that's why we did this research.
Большой, много вопросов. Ваш вопрос, ваш доклад.
Well, your presentation has triggered a lot of questions because the topic is so very interesting, but we need to move on to the next presentation. But we have one more question that we can address. To what extent the content of the tests reflects the content of the education standard? This is one question. And one more question that I want to ask you, Rimantas, what is the proportion of students who continue their education on after grade 4?
Well, terms of reference for creation of testing ask to reflect the standards, the educational standards. So it's a compulsory requirement for the developers of tests. It's not like the PISA test. It's the assessment which is directly linked with school curriculum. Now, the second question, if I correctly understand, you asked what is the percentage of students who proceed from grade 10 to grade 12?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we have a very high percentage of secondary school graduates. In European Union, we're among the leaders. 96% of students get secondary education diploma. So it means that almost everyone maybe 99% finish compulsory education. And 96 of them finish the 12th grade. So it's a very high percentage. On one hand, of course, we can be happy about that. On the other hand, some critically oriented researchers say that it says something about quality of your education, because almost everyone can graduate. And the results in mathematics, they show that in general, the results are not very high. But, well, it's a matter of discussions, whether it's good or bad that we have almost universal secondary education like in Soviet times.
Спасибо большое. У нас нет...
Thank you very much, Rimantas. So we're really limited in time, but there are people who are asking me to ask one more question. So, but please, Rimantas, be very brief in answering the question. And so the question, I'm going to read it now in Russian, and we will have the interpretation. So, since there is a centralized system that is not a valid instrument for long-term monitoring of students' progress, which other method would you recommend in order to monitor the students' progress? So if not the centralized one, then what would you recommend?
Well, there are different alternatives. And currently, these alternatives are being discussed. Very shortly, one of the alternatives is the method of portfolio, meaning collecting evidence, well, at least during these 2 years of studies, evidence of different kinds of about student progress. And another alternative, which is being introduced now, is the project work, meaning that instead of taking examinations, student can do a project work. Well, again, it's no time to explain what kind of project it has to be, but there are certain criteria which this project work has to meet.
Спасибо большое, спасибо, что кратко.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being brief, because of course we all understand that we can speak for hours discussing alternative methods, but now we have to move on. So colleagues, we have 3 very interesting presentations waiting. Thank you very much, Rimantas. And now I want to pass the floor to Ildana Khalitova, representing the Institute of Capacity Building for Pedagogical Workers of Almaty. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, dear colleagues and conference participants. I thank you for the invitation and the chance to speak to you today. I would like to present my presentation, the title of which is Normative Basis for Assessing the Quality of a Teacher's Teaching Activity. I'm not a scientist. I'm a scientist and teacher and am the vice director of an institute for monitoring teachers' teaching quality. And I am involved in active monitoring. Through my work, I visit lectures, teachers' lectures, and I assess the effectiveness of their instruction activity. Through my activities, I've developed a great interest in the normative foundations that regulate my activities and the activities of teachers. And that's where my interest, where my presentation comes from. Teachers' activities in our country are regulated by 23 normative documents. The law on education, the state standard curriculum programs, and an instructive methodological letter, which helps understand the previous documents and organizes the teacher's activities, who then follow these instructions carefully. I also consider this letter carefully and act on the basis of its recommendations. And I use it to help assess the lessons taking place in our institute. The letter presents the following standard: the standard of pedagogue, which has 5 functions: a teaching function, a educational function, methodological research function, and social communicative function. These are the key functions with regards to teaching. In this letter, the function of instruction is defined as teaching students the contents of a curriculum and helping them to learn to find out information. The letter provides recommendations on how to structure lessons. And this letter contains also tools to help assess the effectiveness of teachers and trainers' instruction. After conducting some observation, I realized that there are more and more documents, but these documents that regulate education show what lawmakers are interested in seeing from teachers. And I put all of these tools together to obtain a valid instrument which helps us to assess, to provide an objective assessment of lessons, because no matter what criteria are invented, often they don't work. Lessons may be very interesting, but students don't obtain the knowledge that's expected, even when lessons are exciting. And given my observations, I decided to study this in greater depth. Based on this triangle, which you see in front of us, which includes the quality of information, the quality of instruction. This is what happens inside the school. Quality of mastery. I will list the points in the presentation. So the quality of teaching is assessed based on how much lessons contents match the expectations. Formative assessment is when, based on tasks, the student receives information about what he has learned, what he was successful at or failed at, and what he needs to do to obtain a better result, and also feedback for the teacher. So a lesson is good when everyone is involved. This is quite difficult, especially especially with online teaching. Effectiveness of the use of digital educational resources and the use of active methods and technologies in the instruction process. These are the criteria which observers use to assess the quality of lessons. I decided to study and then provide my own recommendation to the leadership of our institute to combine these points with the following ones. with the following ones, which are already part of the normative foundation. And what there's the letter that I mentioned contains these contains certain normative norms. And what I'm showing you here is not mentioned in the normative letter, but should be included in a general assessment model. So the goals of instruction generally give more attention to cognitive abilities, but considering sports and music and arts also include psychomotor and affective, emotional skills. And this triad of cognitive, affective, and psychomotor competencies are very have a lot to do with the taxonomy provided by Bloom, and Hutersky, which examine key competencies, general competencies, and subject-based competencies. Remember, in the beginning, I mentioned 3 elements. The teacher provides information, conveys information, but how do the students perceive this information? Because many if there are 10 children in a class, they perceive information in 10 different ways, and that's why it's important to analyze after lessons, after some time has passed, what competencies the students have formed. I think this assessment will then be more or less objective. As for why key competencies, general competencies, and subject-based competencies are considered, based on the study of 2018, Kazakhstan students are recommended to develop these key and general competencies. What are key competences? Awareness of your activities, choice, and responsibility, understanding goals, following instructions, reflection upon results received, developing, continuing education, the ability to work with information, successful interaction with society, considering the requirements of ethics and culture, and communication. Communication includes presentation skills, and many students are too shy and need to develop their communication skills. There's a lot to work with. And I think that communication in our times is one of the most serious key skills of our time in particular. General skills, which can be developed through all subjects, and all teachers need to consider that they are developing cognitive competencies, creative skills, speaking competencies, and practical competencies. Also, each subject has its own competencies. Here I've listed some of the sources that I've mentioned in my presentation. And as far as conclusions go, I think there's the opportunity to make our toolkit include all of these components: quality of information, quality of teaching, and quality of results, which often takes some time to observe, because the teaching process is a process which takes place over quite a long period of time. And it takes an individual approach. So there are many nuances here because we're dealing with people. And the criteria that we're currently using to assess the work of our teachers, I think, are insufficient because they don't allow us to assess everything that's important. And what we find doesn't always fit into our frameworks. And so if we have very general criteria, it's often hard to understand them in the same way. There are different interpretations of these criteria. And so we need to develop further and work on this. And currently, we have this normative foundation, which is made quite well. It's quite good. And I plan to use these documents as one of the sources for studying teachers' effectiveness in the future. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. I thank you in particular for not going over time. And dear colleagues, we have now several minutes for me to ask the questions. Can I ask you to close your presentation so that we can see everyone and so that I can ask the questions? We see a lot of questions here in the chat box, and so I will start reading them out. And if time is left over, I'll ask some of my own questions. We have several minutes. So the first question is, does the law and education include this research function of a teacher? Yes, and it is included as one of the duties of a teacher. There's this concept of a pedagogical study. There's a lot to work on here, because not all teachers have the skills to do this or even try to do this. Not all of them see value in it. There are teachers who love to do this, and we even have doctors, PhDs, and graduate students who are working on this, but not all. So this isn't universally practiced yet. Thank you. The next question, I am speaking slowly. I hope the translators manage to translate fast enough. And if people have some questions after hearing the answer, you can raise your hand and we will give the floor to you. So the next question is whether you would recommend students to assess the quality of teaching, because they are the recipients of the instruction process. Thank you for the question. And I think this is quite a difficult issue because it relates to ethics. On the one hand, we have openness and transparency. On the other hand, students may put pressure on teachers through this. It's recommended in our country for students to assess teaching in universities. And this affects the emotional state of professors themselves, and sometimes gives them quite a bit of stress. I don't recommend this for schools because due to their age and their level of knowledge, we can't always expect a positive assessment. Of course, we do need feedback during lessons through formative assessment, which the teacher conducts and finds out what students have learned. Also testing and also interviewing, which is useful, but not interviewing about the teacher, but about the skills that the student has obtained. And then based on the answers, we can judge the effectiveness of teaching. So this way of asking question allows students to keep subordination. I think you're right. This really has to do with the age of students. So in universities and higher schools, institutes practice this type of feedback, but I think it's too early to do this in schools. Thank you. Next question: the quality of learning regarding your pyramid. Is the quality of learning about the extent to which the intended learning outcomes have been achieved, or can these aspects be reformulated so that students don't just assimilate and teachers Don't just inform them. Otherwise, the connection with the competency-based approach is not obvious. This is a complicated question, but try to answer it, please. Yes, this is a good question. And I agree that, yes, this has to do with my presentation. And of course, teachers don't simply convey information. They do a lot more. They conduct analysis, synthesis, and so forth in accordance with Bloom's taxonomy. But of course, I agree that quality of assimilation is judged by whether the students have achieved the results. As you've said, not just the subject-related results, and this is very important. I remember this from your presentation. Education results now, according to the standards of many countries of the world, including Russia and Kazakhstan and Belarus, the countries that I've worked with, they include not just subject matter education standards, but also general outcomes, expected outcomes, and also key competencies or other names they use, soft skills and so forth, hard skills, soft skills, personal skills, and so forth. These are very, very important. And our keynote address this morning touched upon what should be understood as part of education results. Thank you very much for your presentation, and good luck in your research. The hardest thing, of course, is how to assess these general skills. We understand what subject-related skills are, but general and key skills and also soft skills, these are more difficult to assess. Thank you very much. We will move on to the next presentation of Gunel Alasgarova, who's representing Kent State University in Ohio. Analysis to determine the correlation between different types of exams in Azerbaijan.
Help me, please. I need to select English and Russian interpretation. Yes, as I understand.
Извините, пожалуйста, вы будете на русском презентовать?
So it depends on which language you are going to present.
English.
Okay. Did you find it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen very quickly. Okay, I hope you see my presentation. So thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Gunel Alasgarova. I am from Azerbaijan. I do my master's at Kent State University in Research, Measurement, and Statistics. The title of my presentation is Analysis to Determine the Correlation Among Different Types of Exams in Azerbaijan.
Gunel, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Can we just suggest that you start presentation mode in your slides?
Can you repeat, please? What should I do?
Start the presentation mode, so it should be below there. So below on your screen should be
Slideshow.
the icon in the right, just left to the zoom, just below on your screen. If you can see.
I'm so sorry, I don't see anything here. But let me stop sharing. So what should I do? Can you repeat one more time?
Yeah, sure. So it's just on PowerPoint if you start the presentation modes, because we could see your slides were a bit small.
I see. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me try one more time. So you mean I need to make it bigger?
Yes, exactly. Precisely. Yes, slideshow. Perfect.
Okay, now it's
Perfect.
fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of this study is to examine the correlation coefficient between different types of exams in Azerbaijan education system and find out the most reliable and valid exam style. There are mainly 4 questions. Here I gave only 1, but first one is what kind of exams have a high correlation and are more trustworthy in Azerbaijan? What are the most important exam models in Azerbaijan? Is Azerbaijan ready for the exams conducted all by one organization? And what other models can be proposed towards current exam requirements? The hypothesis established for this research was exams within state examination committee have a high correlation, and exams between different organizations have a low correlation, which is actually natural. If the hypothesis of this study proves to be true and is expanded and statistically validated, the results could be valuable for the future exam organizations, assessments, measurements, and for all Azerbaijanis. Let's move on. So a little bit about different kind of exams. Mainly in Azerbaijan, there are 4 types of assessments. First one is done by Minister of Education. That is first grade admission exam, 4th and 6th grade exams, exchange program admission exams or dual programs, student transfer, school teacher and principal employment exams. All are done by Minister of Education, almost online or within the schools or universities. The second is very important organization that is one of the main organizations for the exams, that is State Examination Committee. It provides different, quite different various exams. Among them, I can highlight 9th and 11th grade school leaving exams, and all students who wants to apply for the university for undergrad degree should pass these exams. It is must take exams. Then undergraduate and graduate admission exams, residency admission exams, PhD language exam, some international exams like SAT, TOEFL, GRE, and vocational college admission. Also, we have assessment by higher educational institutions, that is general GPA, diplomas, PhD admission, and staff admission. And the last one is done by international assessment. Azerbaijan joined international assessment like TIMSS, PISA, PIRLS every 4 years. These kind of exam assessments evaluation are done with 4th grade students only based on math subject, and of course Olympiads for different subjects every year all over the world. And the problem in this study is to summarize and highlight the correlation among different exams provided by the State Examination Committee, Minister of Education, higher educational institutions, international organizations during 2020 to 2021. So the significance of the study looks to provide insight into different exam types and their correlation as a way to bring new opportunities, growth of literacy into Azerbaijan. This can lead to more collaboration of different organizations and success for both diversity, inclusion of graduates from all over the country. So research design here, using a report of correlational design with archival data, relationships were established between independent and dependent variables after an action or event has already occurred. The strengths of a correlation between quantitative variables is typically measured using a statistic called Pearson's correlation coefficient, or Pearson's R. The existing data from annual reports by State Examination Committee, State Statistical Committee, Minister of Education for 2020 from the committee's websites were obtained. We used those annual reports and mainly State Examination Committee's report. In this research work, we didn't use any questionnaires or observations and relied on the archival data. Well, population sample and participants in archival data, again, we used those numbers, and participants are mainly school graduates, university admission exam participants, sub-baccalaureate graduates, let's say school and university students. And in this research work, subjects or instruments are the different types of exams, including mainly 9th, 11th grade school leaving exams, undergraduate and graduate university admission exams, sub-baccalaureate diplomas, university GPAs, etc. So let me quickly talk about results. Actually, in my paper, I included 8 correlational results. Here I gave only 6, but I will choose mainly 3 very low, medium, and high correlations and discuss that. For example, very low correlation, 0.25, we see between sub-baccalaureate diploma grades and university admission exams. What it tells us, well, diplomas are graded by college teachers, professors, and university admission exams are done by a State Examination Committee. And low correlation, it means there is some bias, there is some problems, either in diploma assessment. Well, to be true, in Azerbaijan, everyone believes that State Examination Committee provides objective, unbiased assessment. Everyone relies on it, trusts on it. So it means college diplomas are not so reliable. It needs more work. And for example, medium or low correlation, 0.34 or 0.67 is between undergraduate diploma scores and graduate admission exam scores again. That is university assessment. Again, this type of correlation improved a lot recent years. Some universities try to assess fairly, anonymously, but still some needs work to work on this, as for example, district region universities present very low correlation, which is dubious, which is suspicious, and high correlation, 0.78, 0.87 correlation between the scores for school leaving exam and university admission exam from the 3 main subjects. As I said, all school graduates must pass school leaving exam and university admission exam in order to continue their education. And both these exams are done by State Examination Committee. And 3 main subjects, I mean math, English, or any foreign language, and Azerbaijani language exams. And this correlation is very high, not very high, but yes, pretty high. And it shows that State Examination Committee provides objective, fair exams, and the same student scores almost the same in school leaving exam and university admission exam. To be very fast, I'm going to the next slide. So little bit about discussion. There are significant correlations between the scores for the exams conducted by SEC, which is natural, as I said. The higher the grade from one state examination committee, the higher from the second state examination committee. And correlation of the state examination committee exams with another type of assessments by different organizations performs low or medium correlation. And it means in Azerbaijan education systems, there are gaps and they need to be fixed. So yeah, in my paper, we gave 5 recommendations, but here I will highlight only 3. First one is more correlational work should be done, not only by to compare state examination committee exams, but also international exams like TIMSS, PISA, and CORALS. These results are in Ministry of Education, and in collaborating with state examination committee. Right now they are like not rivals, but they works almost separately, and they don't share or conduct any dual projects. But it would be interesting to compare international exam results with state examination committee results. Then it would be beneficial to see correlation reports by Minister of Education regarding elementary, middle, and high school students' grades and TIMSS report. Yes, we have annual reports published in Minister of Education website. It's very long and detailed, but we don't see any kind of correlational reports, which is not so fair or open. I don't know. And the last one is state examination committee provides international exams like TOEFL, GRE, and I would suggest that students who pass both international exams, which is mainly based on English and math, and if they take state examination committee exams like undergraduate or school leaving exams, they can be compared. And we could see state examination committees correlation not only with exams within the country, but with international exams. To cut short, let me go to conclusion. The results of the present study suggest that there are still many points to improve in the Azerbaijan education system. In this research work, only state examination committee correlation reports were compiled and compared. However, it would be valuable to witness Ministry of Education and higher educational institutions reports on correlational assessment and measurement. The findings of this study reveal the hypothesis that exams within the SEC have a high correlation. Instead, after looking from state examination committee perspective, exams between other organizations have a low correlation. But that is only one angle view to see. So it is impossible to select a more trustworthy and reliable exam type or exam resource so far. Little information about limitations. As I said, I used archival data. This method is less expensive, saves time, and provides the researcher with more disposable data to work with. However, it has the problem of data accuracy. I couldn't check. Of course, it is impossible to check numbers, figures, and we have to rely only on annual report by State Examination Committee. And second drawback of the study is that present study only involved the information compared to state examination exams, not Ministry of Education or university and college reports. That also presents the opportunity for a biased conclusion by only relying on State Examination Committee report. As a future challenge, it will be necessary to conduct further research to examine the relationship between different types of exams, and not only in Azerbaijan, but internationally. I think that's it. I don't know about timing. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please.
Гюнель, спасибо. Я вам подарила 1 минутку. Вот, спасибо.
Thank you
большое.
very much, Gule. Actually, I gave you 1 extra minute. Thank you. It's really great that you work with large, massive volumes of data. And as far as I understand, this is your work for the master's program, right? For the master's degree.
Yes, partially it is a part of my coursework. Yeah, thank you very much.
У меня есть 2 маленьких вопроса.
I have 2 questions
Немножечко мы опаздываем, но я задам.
because we're a little bit behind the schedule, but still I have 2 questions to you. Do you understand it right that you actually investigated the correlation of exams that were carried out at one and the same time, in one and the same period? So at the same age. Yes, you are right. This is what we did. We analyzed the exams carried out in 2020, and those were exams organized by different organizations. So the time period was the same, but the organizations were different. So some of the exams were the university admission exams, and some were diploma or graduation exams from colleges. Same here, but held at different universities, different institutions.
I fluently understand Russian as the post-Soviet country. In Azerbaijan, many people speak in Russian, but yes, it's easy to explain in English. Yes, as I said, correlational work were done by State Examination Committee. That is a very important organization that provides very vital lifelong exams, and almost everyone in Azerbaijan at least once takes those exams. And we can see low correlation and high correlation in among different types. It means low correlation shows that there are still gaps. For example, why student with excellent diploma results cannot get excellent results for graduate exam. It shows either there is bias or bribery. I don't know, something happened that student got excellent diploma results, but couldn't achieve those results in graduate master's degree admission. Azerbaijan education system is still developing, so there are lots of work to do on.
Гюнель, спасибо. Можно я на правах
Thank
модератора?
you very much, Gönel. And as a moderator, I would use my role of the moderator to make 2 brief comments, just like food for thought for you. You know, one thing is when you compare scores between subjects, like for instance, school graduation exam in maths and the scores at the math exam as the admission exam to the university. So maybe the low correlation is related to the fact that you compare scores not within one subject, but between the total scores, total admission scores, total graduation scores. So maybe the clue would be to compare the scores within one subject. And you mentioned also PISA teams and others, and you said that it would be great to compare between the results of the international assessment systems and the national examination system in Azerbaijan. But I want to mention that these international assessment systems are not individual monitoring, so they only give scores at the country level. They are plausible values only. If these could be used, but please be careful. You can actually read a little bit more about that in order to correctly use this data, interpret them in a correct way, because you have to keep it in mind that they do not provide individual assessments, but rather generalized assessments. But I wish you all kind of success, because you have a very big volume of data to work on, and of course this is very welcome. And now, dear colleagues, we are about to start one more presentation by Harmalia Halmanzadeh, representing the Ministry of Education of Tajikistan. Yulia, are you going to switch on the presentation? So Hanali, the floor is yours. Please unmute yourself and just tell us when you want us to move to another slide.
Hello, dear colleagues. We have listened to all of the previous colleagues and came to the conclusion that we will take your experience as a basis. And today I would like to talk about the problems that face our education system currently. I would like to tell about the activities of our education institutes and talk about the quality of teaching and assessment of learning. I don't have much time for my presentation, and I will give a short presentation of my material. Dear colleagues, the development of civilization has led to the formation of the idea of lifelong education at the end of the second millennium. It is lifelong education that can allow us to quickly respond to all changes in society. Over the past 30 years that the Republic of Tajikistan has been independent, lifelong education has become one of the most central pedagogical trends in our society. In this regard, an urgent need arises in the education system of organizing continuous training, retraining, and advanced training. There's a much greater need for professional mobility, a person capable of quickly changing professions, mastering new social roles and functions. According to experts, not just in our country, but in many countries, it is necessary to retrain and improve the qualifications of a very large number of teachers and educators. To meet the needs of citizens, including teachers, a network of teacher training structures exists in our country.
Канали, мы вас очень плохо слышим. Вам, наверное,
We can't hear you very well. You probably need to move the okay. In Tajikistan, the Organization of Professional Development is based on the law of the Republic of Tajikistan on education. According to this law, the issues of advanced training and retraining of personnel are carried out in educational organizations which implement educational training programs for additional education, scientific organizations, institutes for advanced training, etc. Also, the law defines the duties and rights of teaching staff to improve their own qualifications. The Republican Institute for Advanced Studies and Retraining in the Sphere of Education is a full-fledged structural part of the education system of the Republic, which has its own functional load, which has a curriculum for all levels of the continuing education system. The development of preschool education and training systems, secondary education, primary, secondary, higher professional, and postgraduate education is directly related to and depends on the system of advanced training or professional development, since the main drivers at all levels are the potential, the capacities of the teaching staff. After our organization acquired the status of a state institution in 2014, the Republican Institute for Advanced Studies and Retraining of Education Workers became the coordinator of the system of advanced training and retraining of personnel on a national scale. The implementation of many projects in international programs made it possible to provide the Institute with technical equipment to update its informatics and computer technology, and to begin the study and implementation of the latest pedagogical and technical technologies. In the medium and long term, in reforming the system, within the framework of the National Strategy for the Development of Education through 2030, our organization is tasked with the modernization of the system of advanced teacher training, which involves the creation of conditions for teachers to choose the educational services that they will use to improve their qualifications, mechanisms of a distributed system of support for teachers in their professional growth, mechanisms for the introduction of a modular system of professional development, conditions for the mobility of the advanced trainings of an advanced training system through the introduction of new educational standards, educational technologies, etc. At the level of educational institutions, permanent access, internet access to teaching materials for teachers and electronic educational resources for professional growth will be created. The advanced training program will be based on a modular competency approach. A credit modular system of advanced training was introduced, which creates conditions for teachers to choose their own training programs. Further training will be tied to the certification procedure for teaching staff and will be carried out regularly, at least once every 3 years. Advanced training programs will use information and communication technologies and the latest pedagogical methods. At present, our team is a highly educated scientific and pedagogical team, including doctors, candidates of sciences, methodologists, students of education, and teachers and mentors. The Institute has close ties with many universities and pedagogical colleges of the country, experienced employees of conducting classes for students. Dear colleagues, one of the important areas of activity that need to be improved is working on improving its quality. An important aspect in achieving this goal is the creation of the most optimal control and evaluation system. It should be noted that the process of forming an assessment system in the field of advanced training is actively taking place at the state level, since our organization is one of the subordinate structures of the Ministry of Education and Sciences of Tajikistan. At the state level, the development and implementation of projects, strategies, and education standards is being conducted to create systems for assessing the quality of education and increasing their effectiveness. The issues of advanced training and retraining of education workers are outlined through such high priority national projects as the state program called Development of a System of Advanced Training and Retraining of Education Workers for 2018-2022, approved by the government of the Republic of Tajikistan. The National Education Development Strategy through 2030. The medium-term action plan for 2021-2023, the concept for the development of education through 2030, and in many other legislative acts of the country. In these documents, one of the important aspects affecting the quality of education in general is the improvement of teaching staff, which implies the creation of an independent and objective system for assessing the quality of teaching activities and teaching quality assessment. The activities of our organization include the following external and internal assessment systems: certification of teaching staff, assessment of teachers' qualifications organized by the higher education authorities, professional development of educators, increasing the level of competence of teaching staff through internships, providing conditions for obtaining a further education, for example, master's degree, postgraduate studies, PhD scientific research, and so forth. And all of these activities are part of the internal and external evaluation system. Internal and intra-organizational assessment system also involves methodological support of educational activities, exchange of experience, taking into account the achievements of teachers and students. And all of this helps to assess the quality of teaching at the Institute. Currently, work is underway to streamline this process and develop a clear structure. Internal assessment of teaching activities is also carried out through methodological work and course activities, which are provided and monitored by departments for educational and methodological activities of our organization and its branches. It should also be noted that the current academic council determines the development of the Institute in the context of the modernization of the national education system. The Academic Council of the Institute has developed general and alternate modules for advanced training programs, according to which the requirements for creating educational plans for advanced training courses in many areas are determined. Students of our organization and its branches have the opportunity to improve the potential and teaching quality in 61 different curricula, consisting of 38 specialties implemented in the framework of short and long-term courses. Assessment of training and course trainees at our organization is carried out by a monitoring group, which in turn, through testing, conducts a survey at the beginning and at the end of the courses. In this way, the professional skills of teachers and educators before and after courses are determined. Results of monitoring and the percentage of the program's assimilation by students are discussed at meetings of the organization. To achieve the best results, the monitoring sector also organizes field inspections to educational institutions in regions and cities of the Republic. Working groups of specialists and experts determine how much the capacity of teachers has increased after their completion of advanced training courses and how effectively they use the knowledge gained in their education process. The results of these checks are also discussed at our organization's meetings and announced at seminars of the methodological offices of the Republic. International cooperation is one of the main directions of the institute's activities. Attracting grants for the implementation of state programs, studying the pedagogical experience of leading countries will open up new opportunities for us to integrate the system of quality assessment, teaching quality assessment, and gaining international experience. Thank you very much for your interesting report. We have some questions, although our time is running out. I will read them out and then we will finish our session. Please tell us, instruction of teachers is conducted during the calendar year, or is it part of holidays? We have 1,300 teachers. We have a 5-year cycle. And every year, 25% of our teachers take these teacher training courses. Thank you. The second question, I think we heard the answer already in the presentation, but I will ask anyway. Does your institute also conduct certification of teachers, or is this done by a different organization? This is done together with other institutes every 3 years. Thank you very much. And dear colleagues, we have finished our work during the session. In my opinion, it has been very interesting. We heard 4 presentations on different aspects of assessment and students and teachers. We heard about exams, and I think this has been very interesting.